On the top right is Destiny. You guys may know who he is. He's a YouTuber, a Twitch streamer, so on. He's been doing it for like a long, long time. He debates people all the time, and I think the debates can be kind of fascinating. He's had controversies, for better or worse. He's really good at debating. So let's give this a listen. He's about to debate this dude on Trump being good versus Kamala.
But yeah, a lot of times it's just really hard. A lot of people are just like, I don't know, don't ask me.
I think my primary criticisms for Trump, Destiny would think are good things. So in that sense, we just staunchly disagree on the situation, you know?
Like what?
Yeah, I read you loud and clear. Let's do a quick sound test. Whitson, if you can do a quick 1, 2, 3 for me.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Wow, hello, what's up? Hello, hello.
Excellent. Okay, cool.
Can you hear my baby crying?
Not at all.
Nice.
Dude has a baby. Oh my God.
We're good.
And yeah. All right, I'm gonna start the stream. Should be good, and then we'll be off to the races. In 3, 2.
While we listen to this, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild 1, just kind of going through doing whatever. Shouldn't bother you too much. You never played before.
Ready, set, here I go. Hey everybody, today we're debating Harris versus Trump, and we are starting right now with Stephen's opening statement defending Harris. Thanks for being with us, Stephen. The floor is all yours.
I believe that debates are just like charisma contests mostly.
Of course.
Yeah, I think the choice between Trump and Harris is super obvious and super easy. I would imagine that as president, Harris is probably going to continue most of the policies that Biden did in his administration. Biden was very good getting bipartisan legislation passed. I think Biden had a much more cohesive long-term goal and plan for foreign policy than Donald Trump did. And I think that the rhetoric that comes out of the Democratic Party right now is tethered to reality and not unbelievably unhinged. It's not rebellious or treasonous like it is on the Trump side of things. I think that Trump pretty undeniably tried to coup the government, and that coup ran alongside a failed insurrection on January 6th. I think that there's almost no possible saving fact or thing that Trump could do that could save him from that reality. It's very hard to imagine unless maybe there was also somebody that tried to do a coup on the Democratic side that maybe I would have to compare two, rebellious candidates to each other. But it's a very, very, very simple question. Unless for some reason you would support, somebody who would try to circumvent rule of law in order to topple the government of the United States.
You got it. Thank you very much for that opening.
Okay, we're jumping forward. Like I said, debates are charisma contests. There are a lot of things that Destiny says that are correct, but don't land well because of the way that it was framed. You have to frame things really, really skillfully in debates. He's generally good at that, but anyway, let's listen.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, I feel pretty much the exact opposite. The coup would actually be the fact that Kamala's even a candidate right now. I mean,
Oh my God. I'm just going to let him talk and we'll hit it after.
she received no votes. So
No votes except the ones that got her into office in the first place. She's a vice president, remember? People voted for her ticket, for her and Biden.
she ended with 3% in the presidential, primary anyway. But beyond that, the major factors, I look at it pretty simply. There are like basic things you have to do as a bare minimum to run a country. One of them would be secure your country. And the border is an absolute disaster. And Trump says
Destiny over here just eating cereal casually.
very clearly, and has said so with his actions as well, that he will at least secure the border. The Biden campaign got in immediately. The administration stopped the deportation. She wants to give illegal immigrants tax-funded health care. She's for
like all of this is a lie, all of it. But you know what? I'm just gonna wait for him to finish and then we'll talk about it. Usually in debates, I would sit here and take notes on everything and hit one thing at a time. That whole taxpayer-funded healthcare thing, I honestly don't have any idea what he's talking about. The U.S. government is not giving undocumented immigrants like special treatment that are not available to like U.S. citizens. In fact, I don't even think that they're getting I don't know what they're talking about, getting cell phones and all this other stuff. Like this is just completely made up as far as I can tell.
mandatory gun buybacks. So it says Congress shall make no law. And she says, I will take executive action to take guns. So Trump's pro-Second Amendment, seemingly pro-First Amendment, and wants to...
Okay, so he's talking about the Second Amendment, and then he says Congress shall make no law. That's the First Amendment. Does he even know which amendments we're talking about?
Secure our border. And then, of course, there's many other variables. But on a very basic level, It's not even really a question. And of course, also the economy with inflation being insane. And then Kamala, whatever, asks about inflation. She just starts stuttering incoherently, avoiding the question. She hasn't even articulated policy. I don't even know how you could defend that she would be good.
Are you kidding me? She hasn't articulated a policy? Well, first of all, she's part of the Biden campaign. So yeah, they have policies. Also, she has articulated policies, which she's going to argue in a little while. She's going to complain about the policies that she's articulated. So this is just a lie.
She hasn't even said what her policies or stances are, and she's walking them all back. So that's basically
How is she walking them back if she hasn't articulated them? What are you talking about?
Phil. Trump says he'll put America first, brought domestic manufacturing back, stands for the Second Amendment, defends our border, all basic requirements of running a country. So
Yeah, but this is all like a lie.
Thanks very much for that opening as well. We'll kick it into the open dialogue. Folks, if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button as we have many more debates coming up in the future. You don't want to miss.
No, thank you, good sir.
Sure. Do you agree that Donald Trump tried to coup the country?
It's open floor now.
no.
Do you agree that Donald Trump tried to get 7 sets of electors to falsely attest that they were the electors representing?
Debate strategy. Be the first one to talk when the floor opens to everybody. Be the first one to put somebody on the defensive. If someone's on the defensive, then they're usually losing the debate. You don't want to be on the back foot. So Destiny just put this dude on the back foot from right out the gate.
No.
Do you agree that Donald Trump tried to get 7 sets of electors to falsely attest that they were the electors representing their state legislatures to send in fake electoral votes for the January 6th certification?
I don't know.
Okay, well, he did. It's not contested. When
He looks like an idiot now, this guy does. Like an unknowledgeable idiot.
he was saying we need Pence to do the right thing on January 6th before he sent the riot in the direction of the Capitol building. Do you know what he was telling Pence to do?
He actually said to peacefully protest, and I've heard you discuss it. You know that he said that. So, but like, as opposed to the speculation about how he indirectly had something to do with January 6th, when he's publicly on the record disavowed the actions of January 6th, right? And he said,
Oh my God. Really? Donald Trump publicly disavowed the actions of January 6th? All I hear from the dude is how fantastic the January 6th people were and how he's going to pardon them when he gets into office and stuff. Did he miss all that? When did Donald Trump even disavow it? Like immediately after it happened, maybe? Because it looked really bad? I don't remember that.
to peacefully protest. Like, the arguments should be about what's going to happen. What are the promises? And I just named some pretty basic things I think are significantly more important than speculatively divining the true intentions of Trump regarding January 6th. You
Like, we don't have to divine anything. Are you serious right now?
know?
Sure. So in the weeks leading up to it, when over 20 times Donald Trump retweeted or tweeted things that included the hashtag Stop the Steal, when he was saying things like "Be there, it will be wild," when he's saying things like "The cavalry is coming," "There's a big protest rally in D.C., we are going to hashtag Stop the Steal," "We've got 11 other senators to delay the certification or not certify the election." What do you think he's talking about there?
Right now, Destiny is establishing mens rea, another debate strategy. When somebody says that you don't know what someone else's motives were, this is how it's established in a court. Looking at a pattern of behavior that they participated in that all points to their knowledge of a situation and their intent to do something. Destiny is correct 100% here. But this guy is going to like back himself into a corner and absolutely deny all of this, which is going to make him look stupid, of course.
Protesting.
Why would you need 11 senators to help you protest?
More of a substantial voice and representation.
Yeah, that's not what was happening. That's not what Destiny's talking about. He's talking about getting senators on board to change results of the election, like actually like change the legal outcomes, not stand there and like wave banners and complain.
To bring attention to it. You're insinuating he wanted the senators to break in?
No, I'm not. Hold on. I'm not insinuating. I'm just telling you openly what he was saying. So he's talking about Cruz, Johnson, Langford, Daines, Kennedy, Blackburn, Braum, Loomis, Marshall, Haggerty, and Tuberville, who all joined Hawley, who were 12 GOP senators that said they'd be voting against the certification of the vote for Biden in the Electoral College on January 6th. He wanted the senators to not certify the election. He wanted Pence to declare Trump the winner, and he wanted the protests to hold Pence and the senators accountable. And that's why he sent them to the Capitol to go and riot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, like the really disturbing part about this, I'll let him say his piece and then I'll point it out.
So like he thought it was stolen, and I know that you disagree with that, but that's not really the point. Anyone that can
He did not think it was stolen. And Destiny is about to establish once again the mens rea in Trump's head. The fact that he intended to do something knowingly. That's probably why he's furiously typing. But what he said a minute ago,
to declare Trump the winner. And
like Ted Cruz going in and objecting to the election and everything. I'm studying World War II at this immediate moment. So that's like what's on my mind right now. I don't believe that Trump is like Hitler in some fundamental ways. Like, he's not absolutely completely out of his head. He's just amoral and willing to do whatever to further his own goals. Hitler was genuinely out of his head, in my opinion. But when Hitler took over, it was all very fast. It all just kind of happened, like nearly instantly. It was over the course of like 3 months when you went from talking shit about Nazis the way that people talk shit about MAGA to literally every single person praising Nazis, saying how great Hitler was, fantastic leader, and all of that, because they had to. I wonder why Ted Cruz decided to back Trump up in that whole thing, like to object that way. He must have been, he bet on a horse, right? He must have assumed that Donald Trump was going to win, and he wanted a place in that eventual administration when it happened. I do not believe that Cruz thought he's doing the right thing. Dude went to law school. He knows what he was doing was wrong. That just like, that makes me view Cruz as even more of a weasel.
reasonably suspected that something sketchy happened when the first time in like seemingly American history, we have the counts pause in the middle of the night with Trump clearly heading towards a substantial victory.
Trump was not heading toward a substantial victory in the middle of the night. It was just like roughly even, give or take. And it was called the Red Mirage. Everybody knew a Red Mirage was going to happen. And by the way, yeah, the count stopped in the middle of the night because people had to sleep. Are you serious right now?
And we wake up and come to the TV in the morning and the blue line shoots straight up. Anyone reasonably, whether you think
it didn't shoot straight up. It just represented, it's like the same reason why in Arizona, it got 72% Democrat on the first day, which is why they were yelling, keep counting in Arizona. And then in Pennsylvania, for example, it's because they counted mail-in ballots in Arizona first. They were legally allowed to count them first. But in Pennsylvania, they weren't legally allowed to count the mail-in ballots until they, until the election's closed. Even though, like, they can't receive more mail-in ballots, basically. Or if they do, they can count them a lot faster. So Arizona showed, like, a way higher number of Democratic votes than Pennsylvania for that reason. They're yelling, stop the count in Arizona and keep counting in Pennsylvania. That should show you right there the cynical, empty nature of this protest, quote unquote, or whatever you want to call it. These people knew, at least the people leading it, they knew what they were doing. They knew that there was an electoral strategy at play here.
was stolen or not, would be like, this is sketchy. This doesn't really add up. And so that's reasonable for him to think it was stolen. Certainly with a bunch of the other evidence. He didn't call for violence. He
So
didn't
Wait, what other evidence?
call for people to go in there.
yeah, if you thought that the election was stolen, then what would you do?
That's a good question. What do you do?
You try to coup
maybe
the
try to
government. That's what you're saying. If you think the election was stolen from you and you think you've got proof that it was stolen, but the courts, your DOJ, Congress, and everybody's betraying you, then you would try to steal the election back. That's a coup. You're justifying a coup right now.
No. Wait, let me ask you, if an election actually was stolen, what would you do?
An insurrection.
So you're saying you would actually call.
So Destiny was trying to force a concession out of him and get him to admit that he is justifying a coup. That's what he's been doing this whole time. Another debate strategy. I don't know that Destiny should have said. Maybe Destiny should have like hammered down and instead of answering, saying, "No, I'm not here to tell you. I'm asking you the question." Put him back on the back foot. Destiny's on the back foot now, and he has to give an answer that could be less than stellar, I guess.
For an insurrection.
If you think that an election is actually being stolen by the government, yeah. How do you think America came about? It was a rebellion. It was an insurrection into a rebellion against.
I think I agree. Like, if there were actually a stolen election, I think the answer is to coup the government. But Destiny, I had already established that Trump, like, knew that that didn't happen through all of his, like, all the things that he said and all the whatever, you know, the mens rea or whatever. This guy just didn't accept it. And unfortunately, in a debate, the audience forgets it, like, really, really quickly.
It's the British. Yeah.
So you would have actually been more aggressive and seemingly violent, since you just brought up America's origin, than Trump was. There is substantial evidence, certainly at the time, that was unanswered, that would imply that the election wasn't completely on the up and up, right? Just
No, there was not substantial evidence of that. There wasn't.
the fact that it randomly changed directions overnight. So
Again, it's called the Red Mirage, and that was predicted like a year before. Everybody knew that's what was going to happen. This wasn't like some big surprise that nobody expected. Even Trump knew that was going to happen because of mail-in ballots and stuff. That's why he demonized mail-in ballots leading up to the election.
I think you just refuted your own argument. You're saying Trump was actually somewhat like passive.
No, I didn't refute my own argument at all, and Trump wasn't passive. That speech that he gave that day was about an hour and a half. One time during that speech, he said that I know you guys will be marching peacefully. The entire rest of the speech, he recounted false instances of voter fraud that had been disproved.
I don't feel like Destiny won this exchange, and I think that just because not yet, he could have, and he should have kept hammering down on the dude and forced a concession from him because he was about to win. But I feel like what the dude said at the end there may have hurt Destiny. But he's moving on to a new subject anyway. I don't think I would have done it that way, but okay. He's the expert.
Marching peacefully. The entire rest of the speech, he recounted false instances of voter fraud that had been unproved or disproved over and over and over again by his own administration, by people in other states, by people in his campaign, by people
Not
in the
at
media.
that time, though. Right?
Yes, it had been. Yep, it had been. He had been told multiple times. He'd been on calls with Raffensperger going over the Georgia videos. By the way, we know now because a year ago, Julian.
Okay, he didn't move to a new subject. That's awesome. Confidence is an important part of this, too. He's very clearly stating, yes, you're just wrong about this.
And he basically lost that court case because he said it was his First Amendment right to lie about it. That entire thing was built on lies and fabricated videos from OAN. Everybody knows it. Trump knew it at the time. He'd already had calls with Raffensperger about it. In that speech, over and over and over again, he's saying Mike Pence needs to step up and do the right thing. He's saying that the election is being stolen from us. Quote, all of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done and what they're doing. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. What's going to happen if you go to protest?
You just agreed with that. You just agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, but there was no theft.
You're just saying he was.
But hold on, I'm justifying. I'm justifying an insurrection. Yeah, he was wrong in doing the insurrection. I agree. Yes.
No, you're saying he was wrong thinking it was stolen, right? I mean, and there are.
Yeah. See, this is coming back to bite Destiny. Maybe he shouldn't have said that, even though it's accurate. It's a charisma contest.
There are many things about this, right? Like who all was voting. Like you seemed, I know you're definitely going to claim it's all for sure been proven that there was nothing sketchy, but to this day, they're still trying to get illegals to be counted as voting and all that. Well,
who is they? Who's doing this? Who's trying to get illegals counted, quote unquote? This is fabricated. I did some heavy research into this area, and it's just made up. No one is trying to get illegals to vote or whatever. There is no system in which undocumented immigrants can even vote in the first place. It doesn't work that way. How would they register? You realize you have to register to vote, right? What would they put down as their permanent address? You don't have a permanent address until you become documented. And even if you did have an address that you were staying at or whatever, when they go to check the databases and everything, they'd immediately throw it out. They have comparative databases that they mark this stuff down as, oh yeah, and you need your ID to register. How would they do any of that stuff? This is just made up. The process he's describing is fictitious.
Basically, to summarize this, we're going to agree, disagree. I think that he could have maybe in retrospect, watched his words a bit more. You're literally just saying he implied.
No, he established very clearly that Trump knew what he was doing. He established his mens rea.
That people should do some type of forcible.
He didn't imply he knew what was going to happen. The quote, like, you can listen to the speech. We will not let them silence your voices. We're not going to let it happen. I'm not going to let it happen. The audience begins chanting, fight for Trump, fight for Trump. He says, thank you. Like, what do you?
Like, you're divining his thoughts. Like, there are many different things that you could do, right? Try to get it heard by the Supreme Court, et cetera, et cetera.
He did. It was shot down.
I know that's funny because I'm sure you'd be the same person to turn around and talk about how corrupt the Supreme Court is and how they're
That
so
has nothing to do with what we just said. If you, I do
Oh boy.
think that the Supreme Court has made mistakes, but that doesn't mean that I think that you should rebel against the country. There are things that
So the guy thought he could get Destiny here, another debate strategy. He thought he could convince Destiny, or he thought he could get Destiny by pointing out that there are issues with the Supreme Court that Destiny has that he doesn't like, that he thinks are corrupt or wrong or whatever. Accurately, Destiny does view it that way, but he didn't let him put him on the back foot. He immediately jumped back in and said that doesn't matter, and then jumped back into an offense. This is how debates work, and honestly, not just debates. This is how like public relations works. If you're on the back foot, you're losing. You should never ever respond until you're on the front foot. Like if somebody's like accusing you of something, like accusing you of being like anti-gay or anti-trans or something, don't even respond. Just let things play out and then find an opportunity to put the person on the back foot.
people in government do, and even justices on the Supreme Court do. I don't think that means you have to do an insurrection or rebellion.
Okay, so we disagree on this, right? I don't think he called for violence. He objectively didn't. You're divining his thoughts. You said, quote unquote, he
did in fact call for violence. Yes.
knows what he was doing. That's what you think. So your main argument as to why Trump, like Kamala, is better than Trump is that Trump supposedly tried to cause an insurrection. So do you have anything else? We can agree to disagree on that. I don't agree. I think that the election was sketchy. Right?
The dude lost, in my opinion, but ultimately that's what this is. It's an opinion. Who did you come in liking the most in the first place? That's probably who you're going to side with. That's why this is a charisma contest above all else, unfortunately.
Right. I think anyone being honest would say, yeah, it was sketchy at the time. And I know that when you first saw it, you thought it was sketchy because it was clearly headed in one direction and then overnight it changed.
Everybody knew, you know that everybody knew that was going to happen, right?
Yeah, the red mirage.
Everyone
They were talking about it like a year before.
knew that the blue line was going to shoot straight up when, for the first time in history.
Everybody knew that
Including
mail-in
Boston,
ballots were going to
yes.
heavily favor the Democrats. That's why Donald Trump and the rest of the Republican Party didn't spend a single breath on trying to say how we could make mail-in ballots safer before the election. That's why they just tried to get them all shut down. That's why the 63 court cases that Donald Trump's campaign launched didn't allege voter fraud, like people lie and say they did. They just attacked the states on processes and procedures. It's because they knew that the mail-in ballots were always going to favor Democrats because Republicans didn't care about showing up and voting in person, and Democrats more likely to vote via mail-in ballots. His own campaign manager and Bernie Sanders, like even on the news the day before, was saying, yeah, at night we expect the vote counts to change. That's why there was leaked audio of Steve Bannon saying Trump is going to call the election on this night because he knows that if the count continues, that he's going to end up losing. And that's what he tried to do. He went in front.
It's a really good defense. Destiny was on the back foot, but it looks like he's on the front foot here. Like he's coming at him. That's fantastic. My God.
The cameras on the election night, and he said, let's stop the count. It's over. We're glad we won. But Pence disagreed, and he came out. Yeah.
Cool, but this debate's not about that. So your argument is that Trump lost.
Then why did he ask about it? You see what he's doing? He's shifting the goalposts. He started it out with a question to Destiny, put him on the back foot, realized that Destiny wasn't having it, and then changed the subject. Destiny should force a concession out of him here, in my opinion.
But Pence disagreed, and he came out. Yeah.
Cool, but
Maybe he doesn't even need to force a concession because the dude is just kind of conceding by saying what he said.
But this debate's not about that. So your argument is that Trump lost the 2020 election. He's a sore loser and that he thought it was stolen.
No, that's not my argument. My argument is he tried to coup the country and he used an insurrection to further that coup attempt.
That's what you're saying. And your primary staple of that argument is that he knew what he was doing and that you know that he would actually implied and he knew that people would go violently try to take over the government without directly saying it.
Correct.
That's cool, man. Agree to disagree. You're literally having to speculate and divine his thoughts. But what I said in my
He recognizes that that's like his only line of attack. That's the only thing that landed as far as he can tell. So he's just backing into that.
opener is much more pertinent to the question, which is Kamala or Trump better for America? And let's just start there. First of all, do you think that illegal immigrants should be able to vote in this upcoming election?
Nobody thinks that.
No, I guess not. But the Republicans don't even believe in the results of the last election. So we can't even begin to talk about the election until we agree that the last one even happened and was real. So if we think that
He's trying to put him on the back foot again. Destiny should have focused more on the defense, probably.
Donald Trump, I'm not deflecting. We can't talk about 2024 until we acknowledge that Republicans don't even think 2020 was real. So when you
He's probably trying to force a concession.
ask me questions about whether or not illegals have voted, I don't care. I don't know. They don't even believe the last election results. Why would I think they would believe the next one?
Hasty generalization fallacy, right? Most Republicans now feel content that it wasn't specifically stolen because it supposedly went through the legal proper procedure of checking it.
That's just false. That's just a lie. He can just say whatever he wants here. This is why I lean left right here, what we're looking at. When I listen to debates between two people, when I listen to conversations, or when I even look at like news articles or whatever, when the two sides spar, when the two sides meet, the right is constantly lying. It's lie after lie after lie. Destiny has not told a single lie through any of this. Hasn't even twisted anything around. This is all 100% accurate. This is why I'm not on the right, because that's all I hear from them.
And we literally are actually debating 2024. And so when you said that illegal immigrants shouldn't vote, that you're disavowing the stance of the position of the side that you're defending, while they're actively trying to make sure that they get IDs or the ability to vote as illegal immigrants. And you agree that would effectively steal an election when you could get up to maybe 20 million votes that shouldn't be counted. So you are against that, for the record.
So as of August 3rd, 2023, 70% of Republicans felt like the last election was stolen. So whatever you just said, I don't know what kind of fallacy you want to call it. We can call it the fallacy of just telling straight up lies, but you have no source for that the majority of Republicans believe the last election was legitimate, because it's not true. They don't. They think it was still stolen. If 20 million illegals were to vote, I don't think any illegal immigrant should vote in a federal election. I'm pretty sure that Congress prohibits that explicitly. However,
Notice he said in a federal election. I'm sure the dude laid a trap here, because technically immigrants who are documented can vote in local elections if the municipalities allow it. That's why he keeps specifying here, which I'm fine with. If they're affected by it, then they should be allowed to vote, in that election. I'm willing to hear arguments against it, but yeah, tentatively, I think they should be allowed to.
I'm more worried about the president that's actually trying to steal the election during the electoral certification than I am about random people on Twitter saying that illegal immigrants should be able to vote.
This is why you have to come correct with everything you say, or it'll be an optical L.
He didn't see. The truth is, there are a million things that with executive power prior to leaving office he could have done to actually do an insurrection. He literally had power of the military. He did not call for any of that. He did not use any of his executive power. You're saying he could have chose his words better. He literally put out a tweet saying be peaceful and reminded them. The tweet allegedly ended up getting deleted. And he, in all of his speeches, he specifically says to remain peaceful, and we are the side of law and order. But regardless of that, this isn't a January 6th debate. The question is, who's better for America? If your only argument is that you think...
See, he's backing off of it again. He's trying to avoid this subject because he knows he's wrong. He knows he does not have the facts on his side.
Trump was a sore loser, or that he basically guided people into an insurrection, right? And accept the result. You're calling it a coup, whatever. So basically you're saying you would let America completely collapse and fall apart because you think that Trump didn't take the results of the election the right way.
No, it's because Donald Trump tried to lead an insurrection and coup into a full-on rebellion in the country. That would be why. If we're going to talk about like election fraud, or if we're going to talk about the integrity of the election, we're going to talk about somebody who refused the election results and who tried to commit fraud at the highest level by having people falsely claim that they were the duly appointed electors in their state, and to try to pressure his vice president, as he did over 6 times in that speech that he gave on January 6th, into choosing him as the president unilaterally. That was the...
If this dude had come into these things and had as much confidence as Destiny, he would look just as good. Confidence is everything in this area.
I understand. Yes, you're giving the justification for why he thought he could do an insurrection/coup.
You gave that justification.
No, when you say he thought it was stolen, that's yes, he agrees.
See, it's biting him in the ass now.
That was the entire point of saying Pence wanted to. I understand. Yes, you're giving the justification for why he thought he could do an insurrection/coup.
You gave that justification.
No, when you say he thought it was stolen, that's yes, he agrees it was stolen. That's why he wanted Vice President Pence to choose him as the president. And when you talk about how he could have used his executive power. Yeah, but it wasn't stolen. It wasn't stolen, though. And Trump knew it wasn't stolen. That's the thing. Because Trump repeated lies. That's not an opinion. We can ascertain states of mind all the time. It happens in criminal.
See? Confidence. That's what it's all about, baby.
thing, because Trump
That's
repeated
an
lies.
opinion.
That's not an opinion. Trump, we can ascertain states of mind all the time. It happens in criminal court. What do you think mens rea is? How do you think we convict on any criminal crime ever? You do it by ascertaining a person's state of mind.
That's right. You establish intent, and
Exactly.
you think that
Yep.
you've established intent because he had a conversation with some people, and you
No, he listed like 15 things. Destiny should go through the list again, honestly, in my opinion. It's clear as day what Trump was doing, what he intended.
think that by that time he had already seen the footage and should have known. I disagree. I think he still to this day thinks it was sketchy. He thinks that the whole system's against him. Whether or not that's true or not, whether or not these courts are shutting it down and stifling it, whether or not the Supreme Court was righteous and are justified in not seeing it, who knows? That's a whole different debate, right? But the point is, you're claiming Trump knew that he lost and he was a sore loser and he wanted to overthrow the government. I disagree. I think he believed that the election wasn't legitimate under your own admission. If that is the case, if he truly believed there was something sketchy going on with the election, he was justified in everything he did. And you said you would have done more. You said
Coming back to bite him.
you would have been more aggressive. You would absolutely call for insurrection. He never directly did that. But I would like to talk about the fact that regardless of what happened in the past, our country is about to have an election, right? We have massive illegal immigration. It's a major problem. And we have a side who says they want mass amnesty and citizenship. We have a side pushing for them to be able to vote. And we have a side that immediately halted deportation of illegal immigrants. That is a major problem. Look at what's happening in Europe. It's literally the fastest way to destroy a country throughout all of history.
Oh my God. He's calling back to this great replacement conspiracy theory where evildoers who are out to get us or whatever are trying to destroy the United States by flooding it with immigrants. Immigration is so phenomenally good for a country. There is no downside to it, honestly. And you know, he talks a lot about like an illegal invasion, like they're trying to build an army or whatever. That's not how armies work. You have to have supply chains and a chain of command and all kinds of other things. You can't just get a bunch of people together to do that. It does not work that way. Anyway, I don't know why. There seems to be one reason why people would ever be opposed to immigration in the U.S. And it's the same reason that they were opposed to immigration in Germany in the 20s and 30s. It's the same reason anybody has ever been opposed to it. Pure, unadulterated racism, in my opinion. I don't see any other reason. I just don't know why they would do it otherwise.
That's way more pertinent than the fact that you think Trump was a sore loser or that you think that Trump knew it wasn't stolen. Don't you agree?
I never said that Trump was a sore loser, that Trump did, like it is known that Trump knew that the election wasn't stolen. He was told by every single person in his administration. It's the reason why Barr resigned, by the way. You mentioned, well, he would have used his executive power. He tried to get Barr to send out fake letters attesting to election fraud, even though there was no evidence of election fraud. When Barr left, he tried to bully his next DOJ Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General, Rosen and Donahue, into also sending out fake letters. And when that didn't work, he was going to fire them and make Clark, who was like the head of the environmental division of the DOJ, he was going to make that guy the Attorney General because Clark said he'd do it until half his DOJ threatened to quit if he would have done it. So Donald Trump did try to use his executive power. When you talk about calling for the military, he also, you know, when people's, he did try to use the National Guard. He mentioned offhandedly in a conversation to.
If you can talk over somebody for just a split second, then you'll stay on the front foot here. Although I guess Destiny is still on the back foot. He's still arguing against a claim that was made by this guy. So it just looks like he's on the front foot because he's so good at it.
Milley, yeah, he did. This is what all the Republicans say when they say Trump did ask for the National Guard. He said maybe we need 10,000 people there to protect my people. But since he's an idiot and he doesn't know how the process of government works and he doesn't know how to put an official request or anything, that was just brought up in a conversation and then it was dropped. Trump initially wanted to tag along with his. I know it sucks, but like when you have a guy that's trying to overthrow the government, it's not. None of this is speculation. What did I just say that was speculation?
You said that he.
All right, so Destiny gave like 15 things that prove that Trump knew exactly what was happening. And this guy's going to zero in on the one thing that he believes that he could win on an optical level. Even if this one thing he's about to argue is irrelevant, if he gets it, he wins this exchange.
Would have for sure done it, but he couldn't because he's so incompetent and doesn't know how things work. You just made that up. It's literally the definition of speculation. But beyond that, the quote you said was to protect his people. My point is that he literally had the power of the military. So if you're talking about like he actually tried to overthrow the government coup, you're talking about some like third world communist regime, you would use the military to forcibly stay in office. He did nothing.
No, there are different types of coups. There military coups. There are legal coups. What are the different coups? Soft coup, palace coup, a putsch, P-U-T-C-H. Hitler did a couple of putsches. One was a beer hall putsch, and the other was the cop putsch. And that was like also known as the Night of Long Knives, the cop putsch. He killed a bunch of leaders that he didn't like for one reason or another. And he even got some wrong people. He killed the wrong guys. He heard somebody's talking shit about him, so he had him killed, and it was just some random dude. Anyway, Cartelizzo and Pronunciamentiato. No, I'm sorry. Wait, let me get this. Pronunciamiento and the Quartelazzo. Those are the other two coups. Then there's revolution and rebellion. Anyway, there are a billion different types of coups. That's the point.
Communist regime, you would use the military to forcibly stay in office. He did nothing anywhere close to that. He didn't even.
He could actually get an optical win here, though, because most people probably don't even realize that there are different types of coups.
Even tell people to go in there. He disavowed it. He's disavowed it since. So that this is, but my point is like,
just to be clear, that I'm not just making that up.
Then you're just
the quote is
out if that's your only point.
The president's advisors tried to talk him out of it. White House senior advisor Max Miller shut it down immediately because of concerns about the president's safety. Pearson agreed, but President Trump was persistent, and he floated the idea of having 10,000 National Guardsmen deployed to protect him and his supporters from any supposed threats by left-wing counter-protesters. Miller again rejected the president. Yeah, correct. Yes, there's insurrectionists.
It's not the same as using it. You understand that you could use the military to like not let them take you out of office. But are you afraid?
I'm sorry. What point is he trying to make? I'm missing it.
Afraid of the illegal immigration question?
Not as afraid as I am of insurrectionists marching onto Capitol Hill to try to stop the certification of the vote against a president that's trying to remain entrenched in power by.
Yeah, he knows he's getting an optical L here, and he wants to change the subject, obviously, and Destiny will not let him. I love it.
Falsely attesting that people had voted for him in states when they didn't, by falsely attesting to voter fraud having occurred that he knows didn't occur, and by doing everything he can to hold on to power and destroy the country. Yeah, I'm more concerned about that.
They're afraid. Like, luckily, we found out that our system's set up in such a way that even if the president thinks that it's actually stolen, whatever the results are, that's what happens. So cool. The biggest threat has seemingly already been nullified, and we've seen that your biggest argument, the biggest threat supposedly that Trump is, doesn't actually do anything. Good thing we live in America where we have checks and balances and all kinds of systems, and actually you're exaggerating via hyperbole and divining of his intentions and thoughts. Anyway, so let's go back to 2024.
He's just completely ignoring the fact that Destiny established his intent like a billion times over. He listed like 15 things, and then he listed like 10 more.
An election. We have Kamala. You want to talk about a coup? She didn't receive any votes. She ended with 3%. So she wasn't chosen by anybody. She didn't get any votes. Talk about a coup. Pretend that Biden's in good standing, and she's defended his mental capacity.
So yeah, he's changing the subject now. Of course, it's weird. It started speeding up
entire time, and then conveniently she drops out and she's the president. No one voted. Talk about a coup. That's literally an like that's not a representation of any people. Like, who chose her?
Yeah, so when we talk about like coup, Kamala Harris and Biden have followed the DNC process exactly. There is no coup here. It doesn't even make sense to call it a coup, considering that the DNC is not the government. It's a private political party, and they're allowed to run their primary process as they see fit. If Americans don't want to vote for Kamala come general election time, they have every right to do that. But no coup has occurred. The DNC is not the government. When you talk about securing the border, I do think that securing the border and shoring up things like the asylum-seeking process are really important. That's why the Democrats and Biden tried to pass a bill. Langford, the Republican bill from the Senate, tried to pass a bill shoring up border security. Donald Trump shot it down publicly because he wanted to keep the border open and keep America unsafe and keep illegal immigrants pouring in so that he would have something to run on when the election rolled around. If Trump wanted to fix the border or secure the border, why didn't he do it with the 4 years that he was in office? In 4 years, he built 50 miles of wall, and he wasn't able.
Now the guy is on the back foot. Destiny is accusing him of whatever, and the guy has to now defend it. That's a really good line of defense, though, what Destiny laid out just now about how the DNC is not the government and how people can vote for her if they want. That's really good.
He wasn't. No, it was brought up solo, but Republicans shot it down. Ted Cruz and other Republicans are publicly speaking about this. McConnell's talking. None of this is a surprise. None of this is a conspiracy. None of this is a secret. Donald Trump shot it down because he wanted to keep the border open and he wanted to keep illegal immigrants flowing into the country so that he would have an issue to run on when the 2024 election came around. So
That's 100% true. I remember that.
If you're for border security, I don't know why I would vote for the guy that had 4 years to fix the border, got zero legislation passed, sent the military down with executive order, by the way, and built 50 miles of border wall without getting any of the money from Mexico that he asked for. So on both of those issues, Donald Trump would be an absolute failure. And then once more, going back to the security of the vote, and none of the stuff that I've alleged, by the way, about Donald Trump trying to overthrow the election, none of that is false. That's why when Donald Trump went to the Supreme Court, he wasn't arguing that he had the right to do that. He was arguing for criminal immunity. That's why when Rudy Giuliani has shown up in court cases, he said, I lied, but it's my First Amendment right to lie. And and the idea that checks and balances work, it wasn't checks and balances. It was individual people. It was bureaucrats. It was people like Mike Pence. That's why Donald Trump has chosen a vice president now, J.D. Vance, who says that if Donald Trump tried the same thing, he would go along with the plot next time.
Destiny just got the optical win. This guy has to come with something really good to reverse that. It's going to have to be a lie, of course. It must be by necessity because everything Destiny just said was true.
All right, let's try to have a productive conversation. So your position.
Oh, he's complaining about decorum. Okay, yeah, that's a strategy, I suppose. Anyway, tell what you think about this dude in the comments. This dude is just, he's willing to like lie, just straight up lie to get his goals accomplished and convince people of his position. Just nuts.